Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Absolutely. My name's Hassan. This is Neb, and today we're going to talk about the Superman and Lois finale and how amazing it was. Before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor of the video, Into the AM. Into the AM makes fantastic shirts that I've touched only from Benny because he gets to have them all, apparently, all to himself. And they're a super soft cotton blend. He made sure that I understood that it was a cotton blend. And if you use code absolutely at checkout, you get 10% off, and it supports the channel. So huge thank you to our sponsor, Neb. Superman and Lois finale. Did you love it? Were you freaking out like I was? I was entirely gripped by the back half of the show, honestly, but the finale was just bombastic and beautiful and tremendous.
Yeah, I can't believe the CW did any of that at all. Uh, I had known that Doomsday was going to happen because set photos were leaked like months ago, and like obviously it's a CGI creature, but there was something about the guy who was on set saw something about like crystals and spikes or whatever. It was really obvious what was going to happen, but I just didn't. Yeah, this was crazy. Like I don't even remember what happens before he shows up in the episode.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
remember. It's
yeah.
emotionally grueling experience. All right. So I as a look, I'm a comic book guy, but I'm I'm no stranger to enjoying a little bit of drama here and there. Okay. One of my favorite shows for years was the show This Is Us. And Superman and Lois struggles with one specific character relationship. And then I think the rest of it is really well done. And that specific character relationship is the Sarah and Jordan relationship, the on and off, friends, not friends, emotional, cheating, not cheating.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
really rough gambit. That said, I think they handled it pretty well by just leaning into the fact that Jordan is a kid this season, making Superman even more of a father figure, making Jonathan and him have even more of a brotherly dynamic, and like having him go through a panic attack. Like one of the most concussive scenes in the whole show is Jordan has a panic attack while Lois is on the operating table getting a double mastectomy for her cancer, and his anxiety attack is causing him to activate X-ray vision, and he's freaking out. And Jonathan comes out and he comforts him and he calms him down. And it's like Clark realizes his powers are coming in, so he offers a little bit of advice there. But then it's just Jonathan taking care of his brother, and I think that does such good legwork to get us out of this like Jordan is a whiny baby, because he's not. He's a kid. And it leans into that so much more this season in such an incredible way. They obviously have the Superboy stuff where Jordan is now like a costume wearing superhero. It's an ugly costume. It's a dorky
It is
design.
ugly. It is based on source material, so I appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
It is coordinated just the right way. A
it
lot of people
absolutely
were
is.
hating Jordan this season, and I get it. It's a little insufferable. I think the effects would be a little bit easier to digest if, he's actually played by a 15-year-old, but you can't do that. So it just seems like he's acting a bit too
I
immature
don't
for his
know.
age
I
when
feel
you
like
just
I
forget
always
that
thought
he's
Alex Garfin looked super young. Like I thought he looked. I wouldn't say 15, but I
he
would say like
does, but yeah, I
17,
feel like
18.
making them 15 was like way too much of a stretch in my opinion. I don't remember if they've like turned
I
16 yet or not, but still,
No, they
like
do
I
because
think he
Jonathan
does
drives a
a
car.
right.
Jonathan has a car.
Yeah,
But I
I
would,
still
yeah,
think
no, I
it's
agree. Like
great, but
17
yeah,
probably would have been a safer bet. That way, when the show is ending, they'd be graduating from high school as well.
exactly.
But that's not the case. Yeah, because he does a little bit, but I think right, you get the Sarah Jordan scenes, which are kind of rough and frustrating to do, but then you get Jordan discovering powers and using powers, and it's some of the best stuff on the show because the effects work is tremendous, right? But the acting, he puts on this and I when I interviewed him, we actually talked about it, but he puts on this persona that is the far more like confident, like really take charge version of himself, the Superboy, and then he does his powers. So he's always like smiling ear to ear when he's doing cool shit.
Yeah,
So
and it's such a realistic take on someone with anxiety like that. Just as soon as you get to be your true self in moments like that,
yeah.
and it's cool to see that represented. Yeah, not to get right into it, but this show had a lot of Snyder fans have problems with it. But as someone who loves Snyder stuff myself, I really appreciate that the show is very clearly inspired a lot by Snyder stuff. They have a different tone, but like discovering X-ray vision with a panicked attack, even some scenes with Doomsday later, it's very inspired, and I like how they do takes on it in obviously different contexts. But I think, yeah, it's a really cool way because X-ray vision is terrifying if you think about it. Like that's
Oh my
arguably one
god.
of the like worst superpowers. Like I would be
In
freaking out.
in Smallville, X-ray vision is this very camp, like you see skeletons walking around, and
Right.
then in Superman and Lois, they did what you're supposed to do, where it's like you can see every muscle and every vein in someone's body. Like that's terrifying. You can see all their muscle fibers moving instead of their skin, and it's so upsetting.
Because we're
Um,
just walking around. We are just like, if he removes all that, we're just talking skeletons. It's really scary and goofy at the same time. We're just like watching meat sacks. Like, yeah, it's not exactly a great power compared to the others.
no,
So and
it's
with the
obviously a
difference, I
very
knew that's
useful
exactly what was
power,
going to happen. Oh yeah,
but terrifying.
and it's just, but
You know what?
on your first go, that's a cool interpretation.
I have a little continuity issue with the
Yeah.
show. There's a clear statement made in season one that Jordan will never be a full Kryptonian. I thought that that meant in the similar vein of Superboy Connor Kent, where he can't fly, he doesn't have heat vision or X-ray vision or something like that, right? He's like missing some of Superman's powers. Obviously not the case because he is a full-fledged Kryptonian. He's also
Yeah,
getting
that is
stronger and
funny.
stronger every single season too. Um, he's great at flying. There's that really upsetting scene where he like fights with his dad, and anybody who doesn't like domestic situations won't like it. Where he swats his dad and hand away, and because the special effects he used that he uses super strength, and it's like Clark looks terrifying. Don't you ever do that to me again? Oh my
Right.
god, bro!
It's
Don't piss him off, man.
no, he is such a terrifying and like realistic dad where he's just like so caring, and just all of a sudden he can just get so angry, and it's like, yeah, I respect you, sorry. Like he's so good. And
Yeah.
the thing about being like not a full Kryptonian, I think this is mentioned in some Superboy comics where the idea is, oh, like Superboy, Connor Kent in the comics, he's like half Superman, half Lex Luthor. But in reality, he's 100% both. It's not like he
Yeah, it's
started
not
out with like
50-50.
weaker powers, but you just have to view it a bit differently. So in reality, like Jordan, he doesn't have any enhancements, so to speak, from his humanity, but he's a full Kryptonian, and so
That
is
might have just been a
Jonathan
thing from that's.
eventually.
I think I might be thinking of Young Justice, where in
It's
Young
possible,
Justice
but
he is half in every way, and then
yeah,
Lex Luthor, when he reveals that he's his biological other half, he gives him these shields which allow him to maintain full Kryptonian DNA, but it enrages him and makes him unhinged. So he flies and has X and heat vision for a while for a couple fights, but in those fights he was being really reckless and hurting a lot of people. So he like doesn't do that anymore. But I
right.
do think he got a ton stronger over the course of that show as well. So.
And it is inconsistent. Like people in the comments are mentioning, like in the comments, he has tactile telekinesis as well. They're just doing anything, but yeah.
Comics have gone a little. I mean, like Connor Kent has like lightning powers now too. Like we're just kind of giving everybody.
No,
whatever
actually,
we
that's
can.
the other Superboy. Easy
Sorry,
mistake.
Jordan, Jonathan.
That's
Jonathan.
Superman
Jesus.
now as well. It's a bit
Yeah.
confusing. But
Jonathan
yeah,
Kent
basically,
Superboy does.
there's no. It's just funny because there's no Jordan in the comics, right? So it's
No,
already.
and I
Ugh.
I remember being frustrated when they did it in the show, and then I was like, oh, and they're gonna give Jordan the powers and not Jonathan. But like the show gave me what I wanted. I liked it, and obviously like I think if the show had more seasons, there's no doubt in my mind Jonathan would become the better, more definitive version of Superboy at some point, right? And Jordan would go some different fringe route or something, because they would give it to us. But the show is probably not going to make it after this last season. The cast has been gutted. They all, the girl who plays Sarah just confirmed on like TikTok yesterday that she's in. Her and each of the guest starring cast is in at least 3 episodes each. But it's
And
not
that's
a
more
long
than I
season.
expected.
It's way more
Like,
than I expected, and I don't think it's just going to be 3 episodes each. It's just they're just not cast regulars anymore, which is a more than
right,
fine thing.
and that sucks. But honestly, if this show ended the way that it did and it was canceled, that would have been the funniest thing possibly. To
That would
ever
have been the
happen
most
on the-
infuriating thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll actually talk about the finale now. I guess I've beat around the bush enough. So the first time they did Doomsday in this show was last season, and it was an expectation subversion which led to Bizarro. Well, they did it again, but the first time they did
subverted it
Doomsday
twice.
containment suit, then they did this version of Doomsday, which No is not the comic accurate design. Definitely leans towards Snyder's design, but at the same time, really cool origin, and like even all the way down to the spikes he uses at the end to pull out to fight Superman are things that Lex Luthor just bullied him. And this version of Lex Luthor, which we haven't even talked about, Michael Cudlitz, is horrifying. He is a monster. And definitely in like the pantheon of the great Lex Luthors. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like
No, I agree with that. Honestly, it's funny to me how the CW always keeps pumping out these like great. Actually, no, it's even the other services as well, where it feels like all of the really cool Lex Luthors are in television or streaming.
yeah, there
Because like
hasn't been a movie Lex Luthor that has been the level of definitive that like a Rosenbaum or a Cudlitz or even
right,
controversial take a John Cryer was.
yeah, and like John Cryer was like perfect. Like I don't know, because I haven't read that many like older comics, but I say he's like the perfect sort of smarmy, like maybe Silver Agey sort of Lex.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then honestly, even the Titans version, he was there for one episode, but I thought the actor did great, and he was a fan of the source material as well, so he knew what he was doing. It's funny you can have all these different Lexes, and all the actors take it so seriously, and they're not extremely different, but they're different enough. And there's never been one quite like the Lex on this show before, where it's like just Let's with a chainsaw. He's a lot more like Kingpin, I'd say. But it's great.
It's
I love his interpretation.
he really is super bad. So he's not like that's not what I would want out of Lex. Sorry, guys. It's not who what I would want out of Lex Luthor necessarily. Like I prefer the incredible genius, suave, charismatic businessman that Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor was at times, and at times he was like a smarmy, conniving little
And like
sorry, I can't say
animated
that word.
Clancy
Dan's
Brown
giving me
as
a look
well.
from and Clancy Brown. Yeah,
That's definitely the most definitive ones.
yeah,
And I don't think it'd be good if every Let's was exactly like that over and over again.
no, and
But
that's why it's
still,
fun. Like this, because it's almost like our Lois is so smart and Superman and Lois. Our Clark is pretty intelligent. They have such a great support system that rather than having a conniving, plotting, planning Lex, you should have an unhinged, maniacal supervillain Lex. And that's what they gave us.
yeah, and he just commands the screen so well. I was a bit worried because I really liked their interpretation of Bruno Mannheim. His first scene in the show, I thought it just sold him really well. And honestly, it seemed a bit like I don't know how they're gonna follow up this guy with Lex Luthor later because he's already so good. But he's just a different character, so it worked out just fine. And yeah, I really like him, and he's
I
gonna be the
love
main
Bruno
villain for season
Mannheim.
4. So
Bruno
yeah, that's
Mannheim is
great.
such a like back tier character. It's somebody that's
Right.
referenced constantly, but never once given any type of sincere spotlight. And this show gave him a wife and a child and did it in a way that I think made a lot of sense. Like I was sad when Pia died. Not sad for anybody other than Pia's family, but still like a little sad. Like you felt that.
Yeah, no, they
Um,
did great humanizing the so-called villains. It was yeah, it's just I think the show really focuses on just the humanity of everybody, and that's what makes it sort of stand out from everything else the network has done. Because it just
Absolutely.
doesn't. It feels sincere in a way the other shows don't.
It really does.
And
I mean,
it
like,
doesn't delve too much into crazy stuff like Doomsday. So when it does, it's more impactful. There's a shot where Superman lands in front of whatever like festival they're having. It's been a minute, so I forgot. But
yeah, Meteor Festival.
and obviously, the actors don't know what they're looking at. They're just told like there's this big monster thing, and you have to stare like you're horrified. But there's the shot of like the whole like supporting cast and main cast just like sort of staring terrified at like Clark about to face this like demon Resident Evil monster, where it sort of like sinks in like yeah, there's never really been something so crazy in this world before
Yeah.
necessarily, and it's all kind of like even though Steele, both like John Henry and Natasha, they're like built up pretty well as like extremely competent in their suits and they can take on a lot of threats, but even they just seem like yeah, like just out of their wheelhouse. Like they've never dealt with something like this before. It
No,
was
I mean
really a
Superman
cool
makes
way
it
of
clear
doing it.
nobody should follow him. Like Jordan's
Yeah,
intervention would only harm it. Like anybody's intervening there would harm the situation because he has to be at his full strength. And we see that in this episode through the beginning of this fight, immediately moves towards Metropolis, and we get Superman impale Doomsday on a building, right? And then think he killed him, but this Doomsday is immortal for whatever reason. Every time you kill it, it becomes even more powerful. So now it's even stronger, and it can fly now. Or maybe it could fly the whole time, but that's like the first shot that you see it float up from its corpse up the pole, which is
Right.
just so crazy to see. And then they go to the moon to fight. Like, I can't make that up. That's so.
They go to the moon and have a CGI fight on a CW show.
And
They
it looks
also
so good. It doesn't
it
even
looks
look bad.
great, and there's a little detail that I loved where the VFX team took a little bit of care on the moon. Where if you were to smash into the moon, right, all the dust and debris, like all the moon, whatever whatever that is, it will stay like floating in the air just permanently. Like years later, it'll still be like being spread out all over the place, and you can see that in some of the shots where like it doesn't go away like it would on Earth. I thought that was just a really cool detail. Overall, just the entire VFX studio working on this show deserves so much credit. I've talked to some people at the CW and Warner Brothers, and I've been told literally all the money they have is being used for the VFX on this show, which is so funny. It shows.
I believe
Like,
it.
yeah,
And it's
there's
a
a
good
few wonky
product.
shots of Doomsday just because the most important thing is animation and movement, and that's the
Yeah.
hardest thing, and it takes the longest to do. So it always looks worse on TV shows, and that's just how it is.
And I think
And
it's
even then,
looked,
I
I
just
mean,
don't
but it
care.
looks better than it's ever looked before. Because,
Exactly.
like, I think that they course corrected the um, wonky textural animation movement with, like, concussive force, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
like,
He feels like
where
a massive force.
like a punch might look weird usually because it's just this motion, it's like this motion and the whole camera moves and it shakes and it like fundamentally like jars the audience with Superman. And I think that's what's lending itself to that. And I don't know, man. I loved all of that. And all that was really cool, but I was very invested in the episode outside of the Superman of it all. Like I was really invested in the family, and I hate to say it, some of the romantic dynamics of this episode, I was a big fan of. Like Lana Lang and John Henry Irons. Where's that been my whole life? Gosh,
Right. They're super
damn.
cute, and I love dealing with the storyline of Lana and Chrissy having a bit of like awkwardness because of their situation, and the
But
fact
it,
that it's treated realistically because they're grown adults is something I really appreciate. Where like
yeah,
like I said before, any other CW show it'd be silly, but this show really they are
they're not trying
grown
to
adults,
create a love
and
triangle.
yeah,
They want to move all of their characters onto a new chapter, which just isn't together. They wanted to group up some characters. They wanted to make some couples. They wanted to find reasons to write off a lot of characters too, right? What better way to do that than to get Chrissy pregnant, right? Then you can successfully, write off. What do you call it? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting Kyle. You can write off Kyle Cushing at that point. You have to write off Steele, but before you write off Steele, you got to get the two hottest characters on the show to bone. Are you kidding me, bro? That was when he looks her dead in the eyes. He's like, I just want to make my intentions clear. Like, I won't be here. And then later, he's like, are you sure? Because I'm leaving. She goes, I'm going to give you a reason to wish you weren't. Oh my God. What are we watching? This is crazy, bro. And they are, in my opinion, both of them, the two hottest people on this show. And yeah, they're just very, it's also nice that in his world, he was with one Superman love interest and then his world faded. And now he's in Superman's world and he's with another Superman love interest. That's kind of cool.
right. And the fact that you've been able to see him grow and move past the trauma of just losing his wife like that,
Yeah.
and you're just like rooting for him, like, yeah, you deserve happiness and all this. You just care about every character so much deeply like that.
I
I know
love
in
Natalie
season
too. I love
two,
his daughter. His daughter's
yeah,
so great on screen.
I love her so much. What a
Oh
cool
my God, my
adaptation.
favorite scene. I'm gonna cut you off and I'm gonna
Oh
let
no,
you
please
run
do.
with it because this is my favorite scene. Um, Grandpa Lane Sam is introducing the kids to the lady who's definitely evil. You knew it minute one that she was a villain. But he's like, this is my grandson, Jonathan. This is my granddaughter, Natalie. I wanted to cry. I thought that was so fucking perfect and cute. Like, he's like, that's my granddaughter. Because it's not. It's absolutely not your granddaughter. That is the granddaughter of another version of you from another world with another Lois and another man being the father. But here it is. And they built it up over the season. That is like well earned. And then they like act like siblings. Like the Irons Kent family, really. And I
Right.
just loved it so much. I loved it so much, and I'm sad we're not going to get to explore it. Because also like John Henry and Clark's friendship is probably one of my favorite parts of the show now.
Yeah, I love those two together, and it's funny you have to write them off after. I mean, I guess you would loosely adapt Reign of the Superman after this. I mean, it's possible Clark won't even die in the Superman battle,
Yeah.
but it is just funny. Like you have to write them off now of all times. It's just yeah, I really appreciated this adaptation of both Steels. I love their characters a lot in the comics too. I think this does a lot of justice to them, and like yeah, Natalie is just the coolest character, and the fact that they're you just kind of forget sometimes that they're like multiversal refugees, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it's it's just yeah, the Kents just took them in, and now they're like a real family, and it's just beautiful stuff. Uh,
I think that's you put the nail on the head. It's beautiful, and we could talk about the Supermaning of it all. Like Lex Luthor was awesome. There's a whole. I never thought I'd watch Lex Luthor torture. Which, oh my god, I in the middle of watching some of the Bizarro scenes, just like remember that that's actually Tyler Hoechlin in those scenes, and that like
exactly.
Tyler Hoechlin's first couple times on screen with Lex Luthor is with him playing a depraved animal, and god damn was he good at that too. He was
Yeah,
incredible at
he's
that.
so good. He has a lot of range. It reminded me a bit of like I remember in one Flash episode in season three, I think like the Earth 2 version of Wells shows up because they're hiding from Savitar or something like that. It's been a while. And when he shows up, I was like, "Oh my God, they got the actor back!" And I was like, "Wait a minute,
He's been on the
he's
show
been
the whole
he
time.
was already in the episode for like 10 minutes, like as just a different version.
He's
When
just
you
been
just have an
playing
actor who
little
can do
Harry
that,
Wells.
exactly.
Or no,
Uh,
he was playing HR Wells that whole time.
yeah, and so when Tyler Hoechlin is like, it's just so cool to see his like range as Bizarro, just this like poor like rat eating creature thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's so cool that he gets to do that. In all
I'm
that makeup as well, like he's just incredible.
I'm really heartbroken that we're not gonna have like several more years of him as Superman.
Right.
It feels like, and I don't know where the show can go. Maybe the show is really supposed to be so limited run because it can't. It does like maybe Superman doesn't have that much of a story to tell. You know, we're already approaching like his biggest storyline ever, which is arguably right, Death of Superman. Um, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna be really sad not to see him on screen for ages. I hope that down the road, way down the road, through James Gunn's Superman, we eventually get the multiverse and are able to bring Tyler Hoechlin's Superman back. Maybe as like a Kingdom Come Superman, maybe as just an older Clark or something like that, and have him mentor the young Clark. I don't know. Something cool would be great because this Superman, this cast, I really enjoyed watching Jordan's power escalate. I really like Jonathan's whole like pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Like it's really important to him that he does everything on his own. That like nothing is handed to him just because he's Superman's son. I think that's a really cool storyline, and we didn't talk about it a lot, but Lois Lane, Bitsy Tolik's performance as Lois was
Oh my God, yeah, we
tremendous.
haven't gotten to her yet. she
We
she was
haven't
the highlight of this whole season.
of the whole
Yeah.
season. She was the emotional through line, and I think at no point was how she was acting unfounded or irrational, considering what she was going through. Which is like the CW problem, right? It's like, you know, Barry, we're going through this together. Okay? It's not just your Speed Force poisoning. It's my husband's Speed Force poisoning. Like, shut up. It's such an unrealistic thing. And then you have Superman, and they definitively say, like, maybe the Fortress of Solitude could heal Lois. Maybe it genuinely could. But the moment we do this and we don't offer it to the rest of humanity, what are we truly doing? And that's kind of like, and they don't say definitively actually that it can, but they imply that it might be able to. And it
Right.
was just like, oh, it strikes a chord, like it hurts. Then you watch her go through it, and then like a double mastectomy too. Like I don't know. I think they maybe put the actress in a binder or something for the remainder of the seasons or in the
That's
show.
would have yeah, that would have been how they do it.
Yeah, but
I
it's just
think it's
like
dumb.
that's what a bold move, right? To take a
Yeah.
character and like not that they've like particularly sexualized her over the run of the show. They really haven't. I mean, they have like a couple of fun scenes at the beginning, but that's probably to tee up where we're at now. Um,
Right. It felt like the most genuine portrayal of the character I've seen in a long time. And you mentioned like how realistic it is, where early on in the season she like is very hesitant to get cancer treatment at first, and her family gets like really upset at her for that. And she's the one going like she has cancer in the first place, right? But that is just a realistic thing where it's like it's not their fault and you get it, but you just get frustrated that like they're not, you know, she has kids and she's just not taking care of herself over the story. It's all just such realistic drama to go through, and where you understand every character and you get their motivations. And it can feel like a little contrived when they go through something like that every single episode, but like it's just it's the fact that all of this was like clearly uh, either the showrunner or the writers. It's just based on their real life experiences, like through the various crew, and it's really beautiful to see all that come through because I don't think any show like this has done this kind of storyline before, and I really appreciate it.
There's been no CW superhero show that has had family that has felt like family until this show. Period. Point blank. And I'll argue The Flash has the worst family dynamic that there's ever been because it's very like
By far.
well, 30-year-old woman, right? Playing 30-year-old woman acts like 15-year-old child, right? Like we have that, like his daughter from the future is like, "Hi, Pops, it's me, Nora. I'm your little daughter. Oh my God." It's like, "Oh, I'm Barry. I'm your dad who's the same age as you. Yeah, be sure to jump around and squeal a little bit more like a little baby." And yet an incredible actress waste her talents doing that. Besides the point, you have that. You have Oliver's relationship with his kids. You have his kid that you don't meet until very late in the show, right? William. And then when William's brought into the show, he's brought in very much as a side character that they only really bring back into the fold to do the future versions. And the future versions don't feel like family either.
Right.
This
it's
is
very
the
strange.
this is
And
the one that had like a familial dynamic outside of maybe Legends of Tomorrow, which was less familiar, more genuine friend dynamic where like everybody feels like the only people on Team Flash that ever felt like real friends were Cisco, Iris, and Barry. Or not Iris. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Cisco, Caitlin, and Barry. Oh my God. Nobody's friends with Iris. Nobody likes Iris. Are you kidding? That's a joke. But definitely like Legends of Tomorrow had a friend dynamic, and Superman and Lois just does all the dynamics. Like you have John Henry Irons, friend, like enemy at first, antagonist, and then genuine, really great friend. I've never seen Stargirl, by the way. I'm saying that because I see people in the chat saying Stargirl. That's probably done really well. I've heard great things. We might bring Breck Bassinger on the show eventually, actually, too.
I'd love to talk to.
But yeah, the friend dynamic with John Henry, you got that with Lois and Chrissy at the paper, with even Kyle and Clark developing a friendship over the years. You have the exes dynamic with Lana and Kyle, which I think is done really, really well. Oh my God, when she has the line of dialogue in this finale where she's like, "I have one condition. You let me spoil the heck out of that baby." Oh my God, I wanted to cry to that too.
Yeah,
that was so good.
What helps is, and this goes for Stargirl as well, where these shows are just more sincere and focused. Whereas in other Arrowverse shows, they had 20 plus episodes per season. You had these dynamics, but you sort of had to make a bunch of filler where it's like, oh, like we're going through this thing with my dad this week, or my long lost sibling that I didn't know about is here now, or oh, my mother's evil, or something like that. It's all these like really contrived plots, which are like, that happens in comics all the time, right? But this is like the most realistic portrayals of family, like that, and Doom Patrol as well.
Yeah. Doom Patrol's incredible for that too.
Yeah, just because that's like more found family. I think that's like I think those three shows are the most sincere things DC has made in like however long. I love all of them so much.
No, and I think that we could honestly talk about this for another hour, and I think it's best if we say our goodbyes here. I wanted to review every episode of the show. I was sad we didn't, but the audience has never been the biggest fan of Superman and Lois, which I think it speaks to the marketing of the show. You're making one of the best shows on television, and you're never really marketing it as something airing, right? Like when Superman Legacy was announced, that's true. When Superman Legacy was announced, it was a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, we haven't seen Superman on screen since Justice League." And it's like, well, we have, and obviously some people were referring to the movies, but some people were literally referring to, we have not gotten a real Superman adaptation. I was like, Tyler Hoechlin has been Superman for almost 10 years now. Like he has been Superman, and obviously through a very different interpretation of the character on Supergirl. Maybe towards the end, he was a lot more like he is now. And now he's just this incredible, hopeful Superman with a terrifying Lex Luthor, a wonderful supporting cast of friends and other powered individuals, a fantastic love interest, great kids, and WoW is about to have the biggest superhero beatdown in history on the moon with Doomsday.
Yeah, and I posted a clip of the Doomsday fight on Twitter, and I captioned it in a way where I knew like it would blow up, just because I got tons of people in response to that tweet going like, "Oh, I have to start watching this show now," or "Oh, I didn't know this show went that hard." Like nobody knows how good this show is, and I'm hoping like it won't happen, but I hope that in response to all the Doomsday stuff, that it gets like more attention in the final season, because they did a big risk doing what they did. I think it was stupid actually, because Legend of Tomorrow did the same thing, where they took the CW for granted because they never canceled shows. They had a reputation for never canceling shows, and they had pretty low viewership. So they're like, okay, let's bring in Booster Gold at the end of the season. It'll be really funny. We'll get renewed because there'll be more fan interest, and it's just gone. Like,
Yeah.
it's completely gone. And ending this show like that was incredibly silly, just really dumb to do.
WoW
And
would
it
have been a cool
just
legacy,
managed
though.
oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, it just barely managed to pay off. They just barely renewed this show against all odds. They canceled Gotham Knights instead. Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
What a sad thing. Oh no, Gotham Knights really. Oh my God.
I'll have all
oh my
200
God, it's such a great
Supernatural
show.
fans are actually really upset about it.
Oh yeah. Well, they got even more heartbroken when they realized that Jensen was cast as Batman in that show, and then he couldn't
Right.
do it through scheduling conflicts. So, bummer. But Superman and Lois was perfect. I'll
Anyway,
say it. I'll
10
say
out
it.
of 10 show.
10 out of 9 out of 10 show. I'll give
Okay,
you
like
one.
9.5.
Sometimes, Sarah cheating on Jonathan was the dumbest thing they ever did, or Jordan was the dumbest thing they ever did writing wise.
Season 2 was a bit of a bump in the road.
It really was. The villain, Ali Alstein, was not great, but actor performances, CGI, visual effects department, emotional through line, this show did it better than any show on this network. And I'm really glad it's the last one because I get to end the CW kind of on a good note. And if you guys watched my Flash finale video, you knew that I was not happy. I
Yeah.
was not happy about
And
how
that
that ended.
It's still not over yet. Like it'll be over next year, I guess.
Yeah, technically,
so, yeah.
we still have more Arrowverse to come. But Neb, unless you have any other good takes or good thoughts about this show, what you got left for us?
No, I'm all out, man. That's all I got.
We're tapped. If you haven't seen it and you just watch this review, you're crazy, but you still should go watch the show because we don't do a beat-by-beat, play-by-play of what the show just happened. We just tell you what we liked. You should go watch it because I guarantee there's nuggets of pure gold that we just entirely missed in this review.
And honestly, you can just start with season 3 if you want. I don't recommend it, but
No.
you can. Like
You can.
Like,
You can. I would say watch the whole show. It's definitely worth a binge over on Max. I couldn't recommend it more. And then, while you're doing that, we have companion pieces over here on the channel of several different reviews of the show. We were going episodic into season 2. Into 3, we did some sporadic ones along with an interview with Alex Garfin, which is still pretty relevant even to this day based on like what we talked about just several months ago, but here on the channel. So definitely take a look at all that. If you haven't already, subscribe here to absolutely leave a comment down below. We'll keep the discussion going about Superman and Lois and all the other things happening in the DC universe. My name's Hassan. This is Neb's Good Take. Good Takes. Good. I said Neb's Good Take. Neb's Good Takes over
I
on
only
Twitter.
got one of them.
We'll see you guys next time.